shaka. Tell them when they lash my brother. Tell them that they hitting all of we. Shaka, shaka. When they make we children suffer. Tell them they'll answer to all of we. For we are family. One blood, one soul. To see all people free. One task, one goal. Shaka, shaka. Tell them if they touch Mandela. Tell them. They better hit all of we. I have seen the white man bleed, marching against apartheid, while Canadian youths protest. Free Mandela on their chest. Now my people, let's all join the struggle. Show your solidarity. From the US to Caribbean people. Africans must know apartheid must go, or we never will be free. Shaka, shaka. Tell them if they lash we brother. Tell them that they hitting all of we. Shaka, shaka. When they make we children suffer. Tell them they'll answer to all of we. For we are family. One blood, one soul. To see all people free. One task, one goal. Shaka, shaka. Tell them if they touch Mandela. Tell them. They better hit all of we. Shaka, let your spirit flow through the veins of Soweto. Let your Jano, Whitman out. Peter's coming. With them I go be dealing. Because the things that they do me, I want to fix them personally. Peter wait, Peter wait. Peter look Cecil Rhodes by the gate. Money, money. Peter look the Englishman. We send Cecil Rhodes to Africa land. Money, money. Peter take Drake, take Raleigh, but leave Victoria for me. Money, money. Peter, I just don't care what you say, but Mussolini he can't get away. Why? This is my time for money. I'm burning and I'm burning and I'm burning and I'm burning. Fire blazing, 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 blazing. This is your time for money. I'm burning and I'm burning and I'm burning and I'm burning. Fire coming. From these madman and woman, I feel the full weight of the hand. They made the oppressed law. They never care about the poor. Peter, these people had a day. Well, now it's time for Stalin to play. Peter, wait, I say Peter, wait. Peter, look, Ian Smith by the gate. Money, money. Peter, I don't want you to make fuss. Remember, I want Christopher Columbus. Money, money. Peter, look, the Englishwoman who on South Africa refused to put sanctions. Peter, I just don't care what you do, but Reagan going in the fire too. Why? This is my time for...
Yes indeed, of course, a pleasant good night to all and sundry. All of them will burn. We have to be angry. We know better can be done. We demand better. There must be better in Trinidad and Tobago. And better can only come when all righteous, all conscientious, all patriotic, all what I consider to be citizens of a conscience must therefore come together in mind, soul, spirit, being, physical and abstract, and deal with the albatross, deal with the evil led by King Evil, Keith Christopher Rowley, heartless, brutal, self-indulgent, egotistic, narcissistic, and supercilious. Yes, indeed. Our pleasant good night to all and sundry, East, West, North, South, Central, our friends in Tobago. And wherever you are, streaming on the World Wide Web, a pleasant good day to you. This is, yes, the Thursday night edition of the Corridor Transformation, your host, LENNOX Smith. And of course, as you know, it is the day before, or the penultimate day before, of course, I take my sabbatical. But in the meantime, bun them, bun them, bun them. And here they are.
Stop pushing, they have plenty more coming. They call them from overseas, but leave my low-key. During my lifetime, to me they were so unkind. So much corruption that they make. Now it is time they must feel me way. Peter, Peter, don't hold me back. Look, the one we draft the Public Order Act. Money, money. Peter, look, catch that big belly fella. We carry my money down Panama. Money, money. Foreign troops in the Caribbean. Punchy, punchy. Peter, I just don't care what you do, but ball head going in the fire too. Money, why? This is my time for money. Abandon. Blazing, blazing, blazing. This is your time for money. We're burning. Coming.
Well, yes, of course, a pleasant good night once again to all on Sundry, East, West, South, South Central, our friends in Tobago, and wherever you are, streaming on the World Wide Web, a pleasant good day to you. Yes, the lines are open immediately. I want to tell you one time, because, of course, we have a very packed program tonight, and, of course, we want to get optimum participation, and that is why, of course, the lines will be open, of course, tonight immediately. And, of course, you will not have my presence tomorrow, so I'm trying to, of course, be as compact as possible and at the same time deliver as much as possible in the process. Of course, but we have to continue with the whole question of Dr. Rowley's attempt in 2015. He then being a Democrat, of course we know now is a false Democrat, was a false persona, a false projection, a projection of a personality, which of course we defined last night, that really and truly fit for, if he was good at all, because clearly he's not a good actor. He's not a good actor, and therefore would have been, if he was a good actor, would have been fit for Bollywood or Hollywood. But since he's a fake actor, it means that therefore we know now that he's a blasted scam. That's what he is. A pleasant good night to welcome.
Pleasant good night, Mr. Lennox.
Yes.
And pleasant good night to the right-thinking citizens of Trinidad and Tobago. Mr. Lennox?
Yes.
This nincompoop we have as a Prime Minister, yes, I say it, this nincompoop
Yes.
we have as a Prime Minister. I didn't listen, I was trying to, I was trying to drink something to try to listen him. So I tried to listen him today, what he said yesterday. Part of the press conference,
yes,
based on what I see on the newspaper.
Yes.
Mr. Lennox, could you recall in 2015 when this man was in opposition, when he didn't taste that power yet, and he was referring on a platform about the Prime Minister at the time, which was Kamala Prasad Bisesa, and he was telling his audience, the one's head wouldn't be shaking. The people who he'd be talking to, the head would be shaking. They clap for anything.
Yeah, the numbs, I call them numbskull, robotic.
Yes. And he told his supporters that if you are a government in power and you cannot deal with crime, then you become part of the problem. I know if you could remember that.
Good memory, man. Good memory, man. You have a memory like an elephant.
Right. And now he come on a press conference yesterday. I didn't call it a press conference. He said you didn't tax rate what you do what you want. And then tell the public that he and the PNM is not responsible for crime, and people listen that. I find all those news reporters should have just get up and walk out. To listen a man who portrayed himself to be King Tut, that's nincompoop, yes I say it, and telling the public that he is not responsible for crime, don't blame me. Well, the last time I checked, our government number one priority is to protect and serve their citizens.
Oh yes, the Constitution is clear on that matter. Yes.
Correct.
The Constitution is clear on that matter. So there's a constitutional responsibility mandate. Go ahead.
And you are telling the citizens of Trinidad and Tobago that you are not to be blamed, and stop blaming he and blaming the PNM. So who are we blame? Who are all the keys for the doors? And people sit down inside of this press conference and listen to this. If I was a news reporter, I'd get up and walk out.
Well, I suppose the reason why they didn't get out, because they have concluded that he is not just a nincompoop, but of course he is mentally deranged, and that, of course, as the Greek will say, who the gods wish to destroy, they first send them mad.
Send them mad.
And he has gone stark berserk. So they know that he's out of his mind, he's out of his depth, and that, of course, lying becomes what I consider to be a default position, and it is so spontaneous that people have become accustomed and immune to it. But go ahead.
Yeah, but we had to do all in we power. But he know defeat is at his doorstep.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And he is so arrogant and ignorant, according to Patrick Augustus Moving Manning, may so rest in peace.
Yes.
That the hate he have in him, it cloud his judgment. That man has so much hate in him. I don't know what again to say about this man, this nincompoop we have as a prime minister.
But you know, you have to say nincompoop and madman.
And madman, and these shaking head supporters, shaking the head to everything. And as I said, me and a man was having a discussion today, and he telling me the prime minister right. But I didn't go into no details after I heard him. And he find I was quiet, so I tell him, I say, I refuse to have a conversation with you because I realize
I'm here in the spirit and crowd, and I think I better confess something to you.
Continue the conversation with you.
I'm saying to you,
June 4th, 2018.
I didn't really want this job.
Following is the text of his letter to CARICOM's Secretary General. Ambassador Erwin Marat, Secretary General, Caribbean Community, CARICOM, Secretariat, Turkey, Greater Georgetown, Guyana. Dear Ambassador, the People's National Movement, hereinafter referred to as the PNM, is the oldest political party in Trinidad and Tobago, having been founded by Dr. Eric Williams in the year 1956. The PNM currently occupies 13 of the 41 seats in the House of Representatives, and is the official opposition in the Parliament of Trinidad and Tobago. The People's Partnership is a political alliance of the United National Congress, the Congress of the People, the Tobago Organization.
And the oil we had about 10 years oil reserve in wherever, and now it's 9 years, so we have about a year again, or 12 years, something so.
I've been listening. I too, like the majority of the population, really don't listen to him. But because of my unique position, must have to listen to him so that we can disseminate information that is factual and that is provable almost instantaneously. And for that reason only, but in my home generally, we take off the television when this albatross, this evil, this decadent is, of course, attempting to further hoodwink the population.
And I will close with this. In 2015, he told us there is no right way to do the wrong thing. And every time you hear this nincompoop, he's finding right ways to do the wrong thing. Mr. Lennox, you have a blessed night.
Yes, of course. As we analyzed yesterday, his personality and character is one that makes right wrong and wrong right. That is the man that you have just described so adequately. I don't need to add anything to it, except, of course, while she was speaking, I looked up, of course, something that from the archives that I think may well, of course, interest the population or the listenership. I didn't want the job. I think that was one of the issues that you raised, and I thought I should, of course, bring that to the fore as well. So let's see if I can find it, and then, of course,
I better confess something to you.
PNM political leader has formally made a request for election of service from CARICOM.
I'm saying to you,
June 4th,
I
2018.
didn't really want this job.
Following is the text of his letter to CARICOM's Secretary General.
I didn't want this job.
Ambassador Erwin Marat, Secretary General, Caribbean Community.
I want to tell us something.
Secretariat.
I'm from Mason Hall in Tobago.
Greater Georgetown.
Mason Hall, very close to Liquor
Ambassador. The People's
The
National
last
Movement,
time I was put out of
hereinafter referred to
anywhere
as the PNM.
for anything, the person who put me out regretted it.
let's go back to the top.
Remember I was in the cabinet? I took issue over the behavior of Calder Hart and Udicott. And what happened to me? I was put out of the cabinet. The person who put me out regretted it.
go from the top.
In this PLM crowd, and I think I better confess something to you. Those who know me very well will know what I'm saying to you now. I didn't really want this job. I didn't want this job.
I want to tell you something. I'm from Mason in Tobago. Mason very close to Liquor 2. The last time I was put out of anywhere for anything, the person who put me out regretted it. Remember?
So he didn't want the job. He didn't want the job, but then of course went to Likoto to get the job. More than that, he fabricated, he concocted, he manufactured, he choreographed a blatant and unpardonable lie on a sitting prime minister, accusing her of conspiring with other members of her cabinet to kill a journalist. And that is just that. But there were other despicable, criminal, unsavory, and clearly actions and utterances in the precincts of the parliament under parliamentary privilege and protection. And he thought that that was all right. Because on that day, among the opposition parliamentarians back in 2015, he said he has the material to bring down the government. And pursued it. Now, he is so set in his ways over the last 9 years, he is doing the same thing to bring down his own government. By lying and lying and lying and lying. Of course, there is a descriptive word for that kind of behavior. Legomania. He's a legomaniac, meaning that no, I think I got the prefix wrong. He's a mythomaniac. Mythomaniac. There's so much description in the back of my head for this man that sometimes I get confused. You would forgive me. Mythomaniac. Someone who spontaneously lies. Who has a proclivity, a propensity to lie. Of course, he displays at all times legoria. As is where the prefix comes in. Legoria, it goes with legoria, like diarrhea. Talk a set of hogwash and nonsense. Yes. Talk a set of putrid. Talk a set of watery tata. Legoria. And trying to make it look as though it's real and that he could convince in perpetuity the faithful, the sycophants, the diehard, who he has been exploiting since 2015. And we say, we will save you too. You sycophants and you apologists, we will save you too in this dispensation from this fella. Because what he has been doing over the last 9 years is lying to such a degree as he did, of course, to get into office. Now, over the last 9 years, he has lied to stay in office, and now it has come to a crushing end. The crescendo has not only reached, but has peaked and passed. And so he is superintending over a lame duck administration. Lame duck means a dead and shame to lie down. Lame duck. So he lied to get in. He lied to stay. And now this pyramid scheme, this political pyramid scheme has run its course. Yes, you must be angry, because we ought to have done better. We must do better. And we have a duty and responsibility to show that better would have been done if this albatross and this criminal gang, this pyramid political, not experiment, scheme, was not in office. Our lives could have been so much better. Let's hear him as he expatiates a position that was clearly a figment of his very fertile and prolific imagination.
I was in the cabinet. I took issue over the behavior of Calder Hart and UDCOP. And what happened to me? I was put out of the cabinet. The person who put me out regretted it.
Really? Really? Manning is comfortable where he is. He's unleashing
The last time I was put out of anywhere
itself
for anything,
on you, Rowley,
the person who
is
put me
yet to
out
come.
regretted it. The person who put me out regretted it.
Look what he did. Look what he said.
The person who put me out regretted it.
I think I better confess something to you. Those who know me very well will know what I'm saying to you now. I didn't really want this job. I didn't want this job.
So he lies so much that he lied to your own self. Lied to the party, lied to the rank and file, lied to the 1% that it was his intention to create because he want to be one as well, a lowly paid lecturer, a former NJAC member. Yes, I want to tell you that the blasted man don't only demonstrate a classic exemplification of conmanism and convenient history about himself. So therefore, history about yourself is a biography. But let me tell you about the political biography of this evil. Yes. We caught him in Tobago when he was, of course, imploring, because there was a 6-6 situation, chewing the cud like some kind of, as one tune said, like an old goat. But I mean, when compared to looks, I think I would give the goat the benefit of the doubt in terms of looks, because clearly he was not blessed with pulchritudinous fortunes. Pulchritudinous meaning beautiful, beauty, ugly son of a bitch. But let us get to the story and let's get to the issue. In Tobago, in his attempt to again try to hoodwink Fali Ande, as the PNM sought to resolve through him the matter of the 6-6 tie in 2021. Yes, indeed. understand the evil we are dealing with here. And that was before he went to the parliament, after he gave those, what I consider to be, as far as he is concerned and how he interpret the lecture to be, because he was lecturing, he tell them don't fall in love with office. Yes, Rowley told Farley and they, and of course six on one side, 6 on the next side, and he played referee, and he told them don't fall in love with office. Yeah. And you know what? He went to say he went on to say the most phantasmagorical story that you could ever perceive or contemplate, coming out from a man whose action subsequently renders null and void and of no effect all of what he said. So he said to them, Ole Young, yes, don't fall in love in office, with office. Yeah, because today you're up, tomorrow you're down. And he went on, of course, regale them with moral and ethical pillars worthy of not just disseminating or verbalization by a true guru, a true patriot, a true prime minister. But this rapscallion went on to tell them, listen, apart from don't fall in office, try to get as much friends as possible, make as much friends as possible. A man who over the last 9 years have made it a new profession in politics in Trinidad to make enemies of anybody who may have a modicum of either expression, intent, overture, to call he and his criminal gang out for the criminals that they are. Yeah, that's what he has done. And he told those people, he said, Ole Young. But what was significant for a person like me is that he went on, of course, to tell them when he started out in politics. And he spoke, of course, he gave a specific date, 1974. And he talked, of course, about having contested his first election in Tobago. It appears that he was what I consider to be an afterbirth candidate. They didn't have anybody and they asked him to go to Tobago because he was from Tobago. A wife in Trinidad, of course, living in Westmoreland, among, of course, the original 1%. Let me put it that way. So because there are two. There's a fake created by Rowley, 1%. And then, of course, there's another one that is original, that now, of course, are subjected to all kinds of what I consider to be vitriolic from him. The last one was, of course, when they said, well, listen, this valuation mechanism, this valuation formula is too rigid for us. So here what? We are disappointed. We are expressing our disapprobation with X. And then, of course, he goes to Parliament and reduce, of course, the 3% evaluation to what? 2%? He take off 1%? Yeah. After, of course, they do the initial stage, the front end stage of the evaluation process to, of course, come at a valuation to cause people to pay property tax. But that's not the point I want to make. The point I want to make is that he started at 1974. And he told them that he went to Tobago and was given the example that, listen, I almost win the elections. Of course, for him, we know that is a taboo. Almost. That's a taboo. That is a statement that he would, of course, decry when we recognize how he revered 22 seats out of 41. Opposition having 19 at this time. In other words, he is telling us that he has the majority and that of course, those madman initiatives that he wants to take in removing, of course, the ships from the emblem and telling us, as he has done in the past, that it wouldn't cost us anything. And then we learned, and then we would learn, just as we learned about how much money they pay lawyers and how much they were prepared to give away for sandals, etc. And we know the cost yet of closing down petrol trade, all of that, including, of course, a mothball or refinery. Let's go to the lines before, of course, I continue. Tonight is a burning night. Tonight is a night that we must be not just vociferous, but we must be saturated with extreme hate and vengeance oriented. A pleasant good night, welcome. Oh, let me just make sure. All right, go ahead, caller. Sorry about that.
You hearing me?
Yes, I hear you now. Go ahead.
I want to know, Rowley saying don't blame him for the crime.
Yes.
That is the citizens and them doing that. But how when it had the DSS matter, with the $22 million or whatever the man had to say was wrong, how he find himself in front of the line and he bring police from Barbados and wherever and all about and talking about, oh, that compromise the safety of the country and this and that. How come he was loud that time? But now he words and everything coming to catch up on him now. The place in a total mayhem and disrepair. So he trying to figure out what else to do. Put in coat arms and do it, they ain't gonna stop nothing, you know.
And he gone, you know.
They ain't gonna do nothing.
And he gone,
huh?
Either planning or he gone and leave we in this mess, you know, that he created, you know. He say he feeling sick.
Sick?
Yeah, looking for sympathy. So he got to get checkup. I don't know how much checkup he wants over the last 9 years. I don't know how much holidays he wanted over the last 9 years and has produced zero.
But when he go and get his checkup, tell him check his head too and tell him don't bother to come back.
Of course, let some accident take place over the Gulf of Paria. And of course, we just simply say happy riddance. You afterbirth. Yeah, you placenta.
That's something I want to ask you about.
Go ahead.
You think license officers is a good way of spending tax monies to pay them? Because we are police, we are traffic wardens. License officers are places where you go to do sales of cars, transfers of cars, and all these sort of things. Mostly paperwork, not so LENNOX.
But yeah, but of course you have the practical thing. You have to bring the vehicle depending on the circumstance and all of that. So, and of course, and the enforcement of the road code, the traffic code. But of course, the police normally will do that in the routine service. So you're making an argument there that I think has some kind of validity.
Because I don't see, when you carry a car down license, it's to transfer or to do things. License officers checking your car, whatnot, and doing the paperwork, and then they go off upstairs to people who doing the paperwork.
Yeah.
Them don't be there running the thing. That is why we just end up with mostly mistakes. But besides that, I think in that license office thing come like the president's house and thing, you know. We pay taxpayer money going to our public servant place. That makes no sense, you know. Because these things with taxi and other kinds of thing, why they don't give that to private citizens and let it go and transfer not transfer, inspect the cars like how they're doing it normal with vans and normal private cars? Why the taxis and them have to go license office? I mean, if you want to hold a small skeleton crew to thing, because I don't see how license officer know who's supposed to be really paperwork people. Toting gun and checking your car and all kind of thing all about the place every minute, because the police supposed to be versed on that situation, right? True, because to me, license officer just a mechanic with a lock-up bar on the shoulder and a gun, you know. Because I don't understand how them could be a person who's supposed to inspect a car supposed to be somebody who have vehicle maintenance experience, not somebody who know traffic laws.
Yeah.
But that is all. I think like it's not.
I could throw some light on that because when I left school, there was a vacancy in the public service for a licensing officer. But an inspection license or officer. So right away, I'm telling you that there are inspectors for vehicle purposes, and there are licensed officers in terms of knowing the law and enforcement of the law. Even though you may not, as a member of the public, understand or would have experienced that or know that, and I know it because. I knew of the law, but me know nothing about mechanic. But that vacancy was open. An inspection licensing officer. So when I went in the room now, I went brave enough. I got into the interview. I knew that it was about mechanic and so on. I got a little mechanic book the night before and I cram. But that it turned out that wasn't sufficient. So when they asked me what is a floating axle, well, I started to panic. And when they asked me, of course, how the firing order of a particular type of engine, well, I tell them flat, listen. I wanted to be a licensing officer, with respect, of course, to the traffic laws and so on. But this became available, and I said, well, I will try to see whether or not I will be able to get in. But obviously, I have done that. Confess one time, and I walk out the room. So I know that. So there are those. So the inspectors are specialists. In other words, they're in fact mechanics and so on. That's the point I'm making.
But what I was saying, the inspections could be done by private garage, and instead of taxpayers' money.
Like how the private cars are being done. Yeah, I think it's an overburden and overload and too much concentration, too much centralization. Because the licensing officer himself has to inspect in that particular instance. I think you are quite right. That is a level of redundancy that must be looked at.
I went on license officer time to do my car in inspection.
I just hold on, caller. I have another caller on the handset. Go ahead. Yeah.
Alright. So I went on there to do the inspections, and the man clean up underneath the car, and sometimes they use shock oil or whatever and thing, and they spray up under the car. And the man tell me he didn't use shock oil, he used something else.
Right.
And the license are telling he that underneath the car looking like they use shock oil, and he don't want to get his white shirt dirty. So the man saying, so what you want me to do?
Yeah. And it's simple things, they ain't checking the engine. When they check it, is probably to see the very thing, if it's leaking, if the rubbers and them are intact, loose items on it. Of course, the lights on the vehicle, whether or not they're functioning, the wiper, and that's about it. So it's a sweetheart job, very very simple, very superficial, very should I say nascent, meaning that rudimentary, But they qualify. But they are qualified because, of course, from what I have personally experienced, is that you want people who know about vehicles and their suspension and the various systems, their fuel system, their braking system, etc. But you made a very important point. I know I have not dealt with that specific issue, but only to say that I agree with you that that should be revised, and that these H cars should also be put to private garages. It is more convenient, one, less time, and of course you don't have this barrage and concentration of vehicles in one place. They will take 2 and 3 days in order to complete an inspection. So I agree with you.
Besides the taxpayer, besides it, they're making a allocation for license to pay them fellas on them.
Yeah.
The private people themselves could be opening inspection stations and paying we. We will not be looking to go and
spend that's right. And you'll have a less wage bill on the taxpayers through the state. Because I mean,
but you could be making
they will be and you're making money. I saying because these inspection centers will have to pay some fee to get that particular license or that kind of service on behalf of the state. Yeah, I agree with you.
Well, Lennox definition. A man could tear down a piece of place and he could sell tires, wipers, everything. So when you go for inspection, underwash everything, he doing everything, And
this I mean. There are quite a lot of possibilities, and you're generating more employment. And if you have one inspector to inspect 1,000 vehicles a day or in a week, as the case may be, and have to take almost half the year, by that time inspection come around again, and all that kind of nonsense. And when you go on the streets, you have the other type of licensing officers stopping you because, of course, there is a bottleneck at the inspection center or unit of the Ministry of Transport. So these things have to be revised, and I assure you that people like myself will be looking at these things and I know that the UNC has a nag for that kind of easing up, ease of doing business. For example, this government has created more bottlenecks and more red tapes, etc., in order to do business, and they believe to be punitive is to be in government. That is government. So Rowley will tell you that, listen, I'm not going to have people work at home because knowing Trinidadians as he know, they wouldn't work and productivity will fall without even testing it. But find himself having to do that now, especially where government buildings are classified as inhospitable for human beings to conduct work in. Under the OSHA laws or regulations. So now he has to eat, as usual, his vomit. But that's the nature of the fella. He has no foresight and no kind of, should I say, imagination to manage Trinidad and Tobago and any government for that matter.
And one more thing, I hear you talking about Privy Council and mouthing off and saying not to go on the doorsteps of the white man and listen. Wait a minute. Why he has stopped playing golf? Go on.
Yeah, I agree with you, man. And of course, that is merely par for the course. He is just blowing hot air because he wants to get away from the criminal charges that are inevitable when he has to face blue lights and silver bracelets himself. But let's go to the lines. A pleasant good night. Sorry about that for that lengthy wait that you would have had. Pleasant good night.
A pleasant good night to you, Mr. Lennox.
A pleasant good night to you as well. Yes.
A lengthy wait is not. It's 9 years I waited now.
All right. Okay. So a few minutes will not endanger you. I hear you.
And that few minutes will just enlighten me and give me the stamina to go forward. Because the EBC give him one term, Eli went to one, the EBC give him one, and this one now, the steel pan, he looking to give him one. So he didn't know how to segregate the country and divide it. Because he had all these East Indian in the pocket and share in the wealth and the grassroots and the base of the PNM was suffering for this last 9 years. So he threw it out like corn in our yard for default eat, and everybody fighting and eating. Just to say, I know, but I hope when he go at the doctor, and the doctor put in the finger where the monkey put the nuts, he could pull out all the money that through excusal, we could bring it back to the country. Because this fella, right, you can see that he not intent and his true intention is worse than Maduro. Is worse than Maduro.
Yeah, he intends to stay in office. He's only hogwash and attempting to gain some kind of should I say, civility in saying that he didn't want the job. And only 2 days ago, he said, once Kamala there, he will always be there. That hypocrite, that con man. Go ahead.
Yeah, and now I get to that. He say, right, and only 2 terms, and here coming back.
Always, every term is his last term, and he is not one to go out of office, in public office, by his feet, meaning that a coffin. And he is in fact a coffin and not in a coffin. Go ahead. He has to go.
Yeah. By the hook, the crook, because here what's going on. Who is the replacement? Who is the replacement for the PNM? Avy Brown? Eh?
There is none. PNM collapse after this atrocious performance.
Because they're throwing all the things towards the UNC to hide their shame. Look what he do when I was good member of the PNM, a stalwart, Neil Iwa George. Because all in the name I say development. So the ice factory is the next one to go in the morning because they will come back and mash it up. And them is the people they interfere with and showing that nobody, no matter what you can be, how much PNM is, they don't really care about you. And I want the grassroots people who will support the PNM and run down, especially the CPEP workers and the URP workers. Let us see if they're treating people with money in the PNM and affiliated with the PNM worse than all you. Where you think when you come back on a vote for him in the next 5 years? And the nice thing about it, the true development of this country, right? Where it is, and he come on the press conference, and I hear you saying, you don't have to listen to him. There's a fella you have to put any amount of airs to hear what you have to say. Because he come with the sympathetic cry when everybody tell him the 5-year-old gone. And now he coming that, okay, don't blame me for the crime situation. Who to blame? Not to blame them. Don't blame he. He's not responsible. You got the procurement legislation for all of them have all the way. But I want to let the listening public know tonight that our esteemed political leader, Ms. Kamala Prasad Desesa, don't say, right, that the price of fuel will be regulated and dropped up a certain way. Because right now you want to know how much on the bill so far? $8 billion and counting of the 180 billion TT dollars since the closure of Petrotrade. And these fellas and them playing monkey tricks with me life, you know. And people just staying there like kunumunos and they say nothing. Because just imagine the little vegetable stall, the little para on the side of the road and the double steeper. Why they don't come together and say then, okay, here what's going on? We're doing a total shutdown for a week. You have to get a police permission for that. But you see, when everybody wants that mighty dollar and have to go and get it. Because how we bring retail, that we depend on that dollar every day. We can't work this week and relax next week. 2 days. It's every day. And the citizens, membership of the PNM, especially, who I want to see what Ole will do in Lavantil and Mova, and then down to the west, them 3 seats in Port Aspende, in St. Anne's. I want to see what they're doing now. Because if he can move Iowa George, East Port Aspende development, when he come for it, I want to see what they're doing now. And notice what the mischief leaders do. when the first 5 years, the first 4 years, he mashed up everything, and the fourth year, you see where he come with LENNOX, and now he taking away. He taking away the service, and then piece by piece, the healthcare, he don't tell all you. He reduced the budget. It's from 400 million, it's too costly, and it's not a privilege. I'll wake up, I'll call back everything later.
Yes, indeed. And of course, it's worthy of emphasizing the hypocrisy that he is. Or if once Kamala there, he's here. But listen to him. He didn't want the work. And make sure and get the full clip so that yes, there we go. What's this? Why is this?
I'm here in this PNM crowd, and I think I better confess something to you. Those who know me very well will know what I'm saying to you now. I didn't really want this job. I didn't want this job.
I want to tell you something. I'm from Mason in Tobago. Mason very close to Licoto. The last time I was put out of anywhere for anything, the person who put me out regretted it. Remember I was in the cabinet? I took issue over the behavior of Calder Hart and UDCOP. And what happened to me? I was put out of the cabinet. The person who put me out regretted it.
This evil, satanic ought to have been after birth. Destructive and devastating.
The last time I was put out of anywhere for anything, the person who put me out regretted it. The person who put me out regretted it. The person who put me out regretted it.
I think I better confess something to you. Those who know me very well will know what I'm saying to you now. I didn't really want this job.
A joke.
I didn't want this job.
But let me conclude that meeting that he had, playing, of course, grand senior politician. I can't use the word statesman when coming to Rowley. Let's get that clear. You throw that away out of the lexicon. You get rid of that if it is in a dictionary. The man is the most despicable and the most haughty and the most disrespectful, and clearly there is a concurrent reciprocity, and that is the people of Trinidad and Tobago hate him the same way. But he told, of course, the 6-6 result of the first election, the tie, that listen, don't make enemies. Don't fall in love with office. I mean, it's a joke. Huh? Yeah, now that you know who he is, you must know it's a joke. Yeah. And look for friends. Make friends. But after that meeting, and they weren't able, of course, to come to any kind of, whether it's pulling straws, whether it's pulling feather, whatever it is. He decides now, in favor of the PNM in Tobago, to go to the parliament. He now tell Farley and, of course, Watson Duke and them, the PDP, make friends, you know. Don't fall in love with office. But he comes back to Trinidad and say in the parliament the most anti-democratic, the most clearly biased statement in his favor, pretending that he is prime minister and he has a duty, of course, to what? To break the deadlock. And guess what? It was Kamla Prasad Bisesa once again that came to the rescue of the people and let him know in no uncertain terms that is shit you're talking. You cannot say that you, as prime minister, breaking the deadlock. It does not behove on you. There must be something in law to ignite that. And at the time, and it's the case right now, where there's a tie, the rule is, or put another way, the norm is, the convention is, you pull straws. And the person who pull the shortest or the longest, depending on what value you give to either one, they then, of course, manage the affairs of the particular area of the country that resultant tie came. And in this case, of course, it was Tobago, and therefore that should have applied there. If it was Trinidad, you apply to Trinidad. And of course, the 41 seat came as a consequence of the 1818 scenario. Remember that? When, of course, Robinson gave it to take it away from Pandey, take away the prime ministerial position from Pandey and give it to Manning and talk about some bogus spiritual and moral value. You ever hear that? You ever hear that? This is a contest. This is about antagonistic politics. It's no different in a court of law when a client has to be defended by his lawyer, whether you are defense or whether you are you are in the prosecution. A corner, because one trying to save the life and the next one trying to kill them. And I'm using it, of course, metaphorically, not literally, because in a court of law you have, of course, arguments on either side, and then, of course, you have an independent adjudicator, the judge or the magistrate, or the well, in our case, I don't think we have jury again, but jury to, of course, give a verdict based on the arguments advanced on either side. And so he, Rowley, takes it upon himself and claiming that as prime minister he has a duty to resolve this tie. And you had, as I said, convention will tell you that pulling of straw would have done the trick. It could have gone to the PNM side, it could have gone to the PDP side, and you would have had some kind of arrangements, because clearly the person who pulled the straw that give them the chief secretary, in this case, position, and therefore the authority to put administration together, would not be able to function because they can't pass no law. The other side had 6-2, and therefore if they oppose, that's it, deadlock. So they have to agree. And I want to commend, of course, the electorate of Tobago for demanding that everybody come together by the results of that 6-6 elections. But guess what? Rowley was so disingenuous, so dishonest, so conniving. He comes back to Trinidad after all of those beautiful lectures, meaningless, and without consulted, which this is the devastating part, you know. This is the unacceptable part, you know. After giving all of those moral and ethical lectures in Tobago, he comes back to Trinidad, in call at least the PDP, because PNM is his, so he don't have to consult the PNM representative, but certainly the PDP, he didn't do that. He goes to Parliament and then claims that he has a duty. And then, of course, Kamala to put him in his place. Said, no, it's not for you, brother. And he accepted. And then, of course, what we saw afterwards, which is now history, he brought, of course, legislation to add the 3 additional seats, and expecting, of course, the EBC to follow suit in his scheme, which in fact they did, and split up to add 3 additional seats to the 12 that was existing at the time, to make it 15. But those seats were gleaned from PNM dominated electoral districts. What transpired? The people of Tobago recognized, well, this is nonsense. This is asinine. This is unacceptable. How the hell you ain't consult with the PDP and you go on in Trinidad and utilize the parliament that convenient to give your party in Tobago an advantage? Well, that was part and parcel of the downfall of Tobago, put another way, of the PNM in Tobago, and even to today. Yeah. But remember I told you how conniving this man is and how deliberate and conscious. So he told them, as I said earlier, his political foray as a lowly paid professor of rocks and a volcanologist. Lowly paid. He said in 1974 he started. And of course, regaled them with the misinformation and disinformation and misrepresentation of his own biography. Well, let me tell you this. Let me tell you this now. His political career started in 1970, 4 years before he was encouraged, of course, to join the PNM. He wouldn't say that because when he was about to say before that, he then paused and realized that he will be making not just an ass of himself, but it would be contradictory to what he has been telling PNMites. Yes, listen, all the time. And he did not want to interfere clearly with the sensitivity of the sycophants and the apologists and those who are observers and are historians as far as the evolution of the PNM is concerned. We will be talking about the evolution of the PNM because I want to tell you in non-certain terms, no way Manning could have been head of that party or prime minister. Worse yet, Rowley could have ever entered the doors of Balize House as a leader of the PNM. Yes, I'm going to tell you how, why, and when. I'm going to do that. Because about time you understand that is a criminal gang that you are dealing with and political opportunist that has created, of course, a Ponzi scheme, a political Ponzi scheme that is of a criminal nature. So Rowley foray into politics was in 1970. I don't get me vexed before I play it for you right now, you know. Because when he was interviewed by, of course, trying, of course, to play he pious and he immaculate, and that, of course, he's a corruption buster, and that he has principles that, of course, will, should I say, expand and nourish his fake integrity, a man with none, it turned out to be. But at that point in time, he was a new kid on the block, and people, of course, weren't paying any attention to the fact that he raped in Tobago, and that of course, that alone is credentials to say that he ought not to be even a member of the PNM, far less to be the head of the PNM. Yes, and I'm saying so because he said so when, of course, Watsujuk turned out to be charged with rape. And that matter is still on. He was in his first meeting, they threw out his tail after, of course, he would have tried to give PNM the edge by, of course, going to the parliament and adding 3 seats, clearly for and in favor of the PNM. He said in his first meeting at PNM, should I say, managers of the campaign, tell him to, well, I had to say, where to go, get the hell out of the campaign, because I didn't see him in any campaign after that. When he said that Watson Duke, a man who is charged in the PNM, no way. And I said, but this man is a blasted rapist and a pedophile, and only because he didn't get catch that he could, of course, make that kind of statement to the people of Tobago, as if the people of Tobago didn't know. When they throw his tail out and tell him don't come back in that election campaign, of course, the die was already cast, and you know the results, 14-1. He lucky he got a seat. They lucky they got a seat in Tobago. But let's go there before, of course, I tell you where he started his political career before 1974. A pleasant good night.
Pleasant good night, Mr. LENNOX again.
Yes.
Breaking news.
Yes, go
Before
ahead.
I give you the breaking news, you could recall the Prime Minister's personal friend, Alan Warner,
Yes.
was arrested for illegal quarrying.
Yes. And he got
And then
a
13
license.
days after,
Days after,
he
yes.
received a lease,
Yes.
a temporary permit to continue the same thing he was arrested for.
Yes.
In 13 days?
Yes.
All right. Well, they have done, this is news that was coming to me, that Iowa George, the owner of, let's call it the PNM station, right? All right. That Iowa George have some boat and some compound in I don't know if it's San Fernando or Point. It's still sketchy. That they send a set of police and the corporation up there to break down the whole structure. Because it's allegedly, they say, one of the imitation 1% like the one there.
I see.
So that is the breaking news.
Yeah, they will attack their own. They attack because they're greedy. Their avarice, their greed has no boundary. They gourmandize and will eat like, you know, one of those animate cartoon, I forget what they call them, but you know, they're circular in shape and they have a big mouth and just gobbling up everything. That's these fellas.
And it's allegedly stating that, you know, Iowa George is I would call him a patriot in the Calypso world.
Yes.
I will also call him he's an entrepreneur, open a radio station.
Yeah, businessman. Yes, he's a businessman. Yes, and he's an icon in the field.
Yeah.
Yes.
And he do a lot for the African community,
yes.
I must say. So I will applaud him. And look what the black PNM do to a successful black man entrepreneur that has do a lot for black people. Look at it, and the supporters and them stating, they ain't calling, they ain't say nothing.
Yes.
Because it's PNM, they don't want to make the party look bad. But they're destroying a black man.
But they have no choice.
And they say he switched now.
Yes.
They say he more pulling on to the UNC. Because under the United National Congress led by Kamala Prasad Bisesa, he never go through this kind of disrespect and insult. And look, people who looking like you, trying to destroy you.
Yeah.
And it just had a situation in Movietong there where a man was owing, I want to repeat myself in the Michelin. A man was owing the port authority who is the landlord for the land that Movietong is on. Now we owing millions of dollars. You know, they didn't went and mash up eating. You know, a man the stating that he's a squatter. They mashed down his structure. But Iowa George wasn't owing them anything. But the man in Movietong he owing, I think, is $90-something million. You know, they didn't mash up eating. You know, an hour after Movietong was open for business.
Yes.
Under the same black.
No,
blackest man in Trinidad.
Yeah. Well, the owners.
Yeah, the black man.
Yes.
Just let me bring that to your attention again.
Very good, very good, very good. Yes, thanks very much for that. I wasn't aware.
We mad.
But I know Iowa George personally, and I will certainly, of course, make some kind of communication. Next week, incidentally, people, we will be making telephone calls, so we may have to go beyond 10 o'clock. Typically, with the telephone calls, I'll try to get two what I consider to be shakers and movers, or two what is called active persons in the know to, of course, assist us with matters that from time to time we would want to have clarity on. So these are going to be specialist people who would, of course, from time to time be engaged on the corridor transformation. They call them captains of industry.
My heart goes out to Iowa George.
Yeah.
And I hope the Lord bless him and continue to bless him. And during your journey, you just fall to know how to pick yourself back up.
Yes,
God bless you, Iowa George.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. And the same thing here, man, because there's another one of us that fell under the PNM Act, so to speak, from the information we have just been introduced to. Of course, call back, Mr. Tagawigwa, call back. I saw your number there, but we were otherwise engaged. That being as it may, let me conclude as to where and when Dr. Rowley's, according to him, political career started, and with whom. First and foremost, it started in 1970, 4 years before he normally would claim his entrance to and with the PNM. He was an active member of NJAC. Understand that. In 1970, Rowley was an active member of NJAC. He said so. Don't get me vexed, you know. And then, of course, apart from all of that, your common sense will tell you now that he was diametrically opposed to Eric Williams, the founding father of the party. That is why I could claim that I was more PNM because I'm born in Laventille, etc., and therefore I'm more PNM than him. His first foray was to join the NJAC in 1970 when the unrest took place, and Macandal Dagger headed, of course, a mass upheaval against the policies and programs of Eric Williams. And he was on a platform. He, Rowley, said so. And all so stupid believe that Rowley is a true PNM. And he played more PNM than everybody else. All so damn stupid. All had been hoodwinked and duped by this rapscallion, opportunist and political, what I consider to be hogwash. Professor, good night. Welcome.
Hey, LENNOX.
Yes, good night.
You hear me, good boy?
Loud and clear, my friend. Loud and clear. Everybody else.
You make me choke just now when you're only talking shit.
Yeah, man.
But you're correct. Now, I heard you mention Kwame Ture name on the TV tonight in the news. Right?
Yeah, Kwame Ture, that facility up the named after him as well in Laventille there. By this fellow called Mohammed.
We know him as Stokely Carmichael.
Yes.
I could have banned him, right? Because
Right.
he mixed up.
Yes.
Ban him from this country. And anywhere he go, if he couldn't land, the brand he put on him, man, because he mixed up with them fellas in America.
Yeah, something like what Imsbert did to Jawala Rambaran, the former governor of the Central Bank. Tarnished the man name all over the place so he couldn't get any job. Yeah, go ahead.
Job. Yeah. And it's only when Pandey came into power.
Yes.
That's one of the first things he do, bring back Stokely. Bring him back to Trinidad. Because his wife had died. Miriam Makeba. You know he had married to Miriam Makeba?
Yes, Miriam Makeba, yes.
Yeah, and she died, and but they broke up before she died. But he wanted to come back to Trinidad, and they bring him back one time.
Yes, I remember that. Yeah, icon in his own right, yeah.
Yeah, a civil rights leader.
But Eric Williams, just like Rowley, just as former Prime Minister Manning, they don't want no serious competition to their rule. They must be dictatorial and autocratic to the hilt. Go ahead.
And they had a right, and I had called that yesterday already. He took the name for me to the African name over there.
Yes.
But he born here as Sophie Carmichael.
Yes.
And his street had a right to be named Sophie Carmichael Street.
Yes.
Kwame Ture what? Eh? Sophie Carmichael.
That's right.
Well, you know, the fellas, could have so wanted to kiss the white man backside. Right? He put that brand on the boy that anywhere you go, no country you could land in Lennox.
Yeah, because he was making mischief in the white man country.
Yes.
And all Eric William did is capitalize on that, so he can't come home and awaken the consciousness of the people as to the iniquities as we are seeing now. That Eric William was, of course, engaged in the nascent stage, in the beginning stage, in the genesis of this evil empire. Should I say empire? No, I should say an evil criminal enterprise called the PNM. This, of course, what I can consider to be this Ponzi scheme, political Ponzi scheme called the PNM. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's a real wickedness in Ulaboy, you know.
Yeah, of course. A lot of people felt sorry for him. In his last days, he was not as wholesome as one would have liked, materially as well.
They had no right to change that. The street had a right to be named Sophie Carmichael Street, but I mean,
that's probably family and he himself would have preferred to have that what I consider to be synonym, that false name, instead of course wearing what he was
supposed to have.
He was christened with in Trinidad. Yeah. All right. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I just let me mention that.
Yes, very important. We need to know our history as well, and to know where Rowley going with this nonsense he on. We'll deal with that in details on another occasion as to where he's going with that change.
I don't think how far you are going.
He can't go far, but it's far enough for him, he believes, until the election is called, and believe that somehow we could, because that gesture is a one-stop shop for him. It has all the ingredients of his typical playbook. It has racial overtones. It has propaganda to say that to attack the UNC and say that they are not for nationalism and that they are not concerned about the country. Of course, it will obfuscate or deflect attention away from the economy. It will deflect attention away from murders. It will deflect attention away from the disaster, high food prices, and the violence that are taking place, and of course the collapse of the education system, literally, and of course and the health sector. So it is a one-stop shop for all of that by this man, who of course has been the creator of this new, what I consider to be lexicon, or this new dimension called, of course, a political Ponzi scheme, and by the very nature it shows that it is criminal, it is evil, it is wicked, it is fraud, but Ponzi schemes always crash, and now that it has crashed spectacularly, he's attempting, of course, to salvage something, but like Humpty Dumpty, you can't put any damn thing together again.
Yeah, that's one already.
Yes. All right, my friend.
Everything for long already.
Yes, my friend. All right.
All right, you will talk.
Yes, we'll talk, yes, indeed. So, yes, people, so let me just reiterate again for the sycophants who playing the in here. And I said, don't come vex, you know. In fact, of course, tomorrow I had to go on my sabbatical. Otherwise, I'll bring it tomorrow. But I'll bring it on Saturday. Saturday will come. Yes. He said in no uncertain terms that he was a member of NJAC, and I'm going to be playing that, and I'll be playing that, and the whole weekend I'll be playing that to let those sycophants know the level of hoodwinkness, and that you're long suffering, and your long suffering is as a consequence of the poor representation and the deception of Rowley. Never ready, could not have been ready. And no way, both he and I say Manning as well could have been head of the PNM or prime minister in this country. The only occurrence, the only event that caused this state of affairs, this abominable state of affairs to occur, was the devastation of the PNM in 1986, 33-3. That's what caused it. An opportunist like Manning moving when Donovan McDavidson ought to have been the rightful inheritor of the party. But they undermined and they subverted and they poisoned the rank and file. And at any rate, she probably didn't feel that she was up to the task. And then, of course, you had Maurice Marshall, who clearly was a victim of polio and therefore wasn't seen as physically able to take on the mantle and the responsibility to manage the affairs of the PNM at its darkest time. And then, of course, you had Manning, who Robinson gave a break, not once but twice. The first break was when he did not and was not interested in a recount in San Fernando East. Otherwise, Manning would have also been history at that time. The most he could have done, I don't think he was ever a full-fledged minister under the Eric Williams or the Chambers administration. I don't think so. He couldn't even make a full-fledged minister. But suddenly find himself with the whole party because it was totally devastated and destroyed by the NAR administration in 1986, consequential of that election, and you had a 33-3 outcome. That is how Manning got there. You think if people like Errol Mahabir and even Desmond Carty, and John Donaldson and Chambers and Kamaldeen Mohammed, if they had won their seats, you think the likes of Manning could have seen the office of Prime Minister far less the leadership of the PNM? No. And this albatross that we have now taken over from one opportunist, but even more devastating in terms of the inability to manage anything, but opportunistically connive, deceive, and enter. And now what we have is total devastation and collapse of the society called Trinidad and Tobago. Let's not waste time. Rowley was a blasted NJAC, and he was therefore diametrically opposed to the PNM by virtue of the fact that the founding father of the party, talking about Eric Williams, had to manage and had to experience in 1970 upheaval, and he, Rowley, was on a platform castigating the founding father and prime minister of the PNM. He, Rowley, he stopped short, saying but he joined the party in 1974 and we must start from there. No, he had no damn PNM in genuine and in default. A pleasant good night, welcome.
Good night, Mr. Lennox.
Good night to you, sir.
I was a member of the NJAC.
All right, good.
Rowley make a speech in the Quasi.
He said so. He said so in the interview with that journalist from Barbados. He said that.
Yes, he made a speech in the Quasi. Yes. I was a member of NJAC.
Right. Beautiful. Thank you very much for that confirmation, man.
We turned around Trinidad in 1970.
That's right. Yes.
A lot of us. That one time, black people couldn't work in no bank.
That's right.
But
let me ask you something. Now that you're saying that, I don't want to cut what you want to present that you might have taken time to consider. But let me ask you one thing. He said in that interview that they had to go in a hotel and all of them had to be there because there was a fire in some bank or some building. Yes, and they felt that, and Ole felt that the authorities would have accused Ole of arson, and therefore Ole had to stay there overnight. They just confirm or
overnight,
deny if you
exactly overnight, exactly.
Wow! Thanks very much. Yes.
Exactly. Let me tell you something. You see, Rowdy get a pass. Because Manning warned us about Rowley.
Yes.
But it have some, what they call them, PNM for life, especially older folks. And they teach the grandchildren and the great-grandchildren and the other great-grandchildren.
Yes.
You understand? Rowdy ain't going out like that,
Of course not. We are aware. He mentioned it only recently.
You see what's going on in Venezuela?
Yes.
Rowdy ain't going out like that. Just imagine at one time he taking somebody from Venezuela to represent Trinidad in our universe or whatever they call it.
The Miss Universe, pageant, yes. Of course, she eventually had to withdraw by pressure from the population, yes.
But I can tell you something, In 1970, we fight for this generation that you're talking about right now.
Yes, I agree with that.
We fight for this generation. And this generation, they ain't doing shit.
Yeah, boy, they didn't appreciate that. It's because people like Rowley don't want them to know the history. Because he will have to admit that he was not a PNM at one point in time, and his political foray.
Listen to me. Kamala gave the youths laptop.
Yes.
You don't want them to know what's going on in the world.
Yes.
You want to dominate the whole Trinidad and Tobago.
That's right.
People in Tobago people don't want him. They don't want to see him.
Well, it's obvious. The election speaks volumes of his persona non grata across there. He's alien material. Yes.
Saturday is independence in Trinidad and Tobago.
Yes.
This is the time the people are supposed to come out and make a stand. We get independence in 1962. You understand? This is the time the people are supposed to come out, make a stand, let the world know what's going on. It's like the people down there, I don't know, all they do is talk. In 1970, we had 3 radio stations. We had Radio Fusion. A lot of people don't know that.
Yes.
We had 610 Radio. We had
Radio Trinidad.
What do you call it? Radio Trinidad.
Yeah.
We had TDT, the only TV station we
had.
Yes. Now we have about 5 or 6 radio stations talking politics, and it's like they can't move the people.
Yeah.
We didn't have all that station. We didn't have all that station, and we organized. We had meetings in the backyard. We had meetings in so and so. The government didn't know what was going on. We had Eric Williams saying friggin' news. Eric Williams, the father, what they say is the country of Trinidad and Tobago. We had them on the news. These young people and them, all they want is carnival, stink and dirty, holidays.
Yeah.
Look. Rowdy's a black man. I was just a black man. Breaking news, I was on CNN today. It was on CNN today.
All right, so you have confirmed. Right. Coming from you and the other source, and then I have to concur, but I'll still, of course, get some more details.
Yeah, listen to me. I ain't telling you no crap, but this is me I'm telling you about. They have a judge. I see the tape. They mash down the man plays and all kind of craziness. The man have 3 shows, 3 boat rides coming on this weekend. People don't pay for the tickets and all kind of things. We had to refund people back the money.
Oh shit.
And all kind of craziness. It's craziness. Rowley is a dictator. That is what Rowley is trying to do. Rowley, I mean, this guy, they will call him from Grenada, Maurice Bishop.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. People, the Lord say, who have eyes to see will see. The Cubans came down and built the airport in Grenada and all kind of craziness. You understand?
Mm.
But something about it, that guy was kind of shady. You understand? No, Rowley trying to, do certain things that...
Emulate, a hybrid between people like that, Maduro, etc. He's trying to bring that into our democracy. But that and God face he will not see. A pink donkey.
Exactly. And I hope these people, man, they vote this man out, Manning warned already about this man, and already didn't take heed. Manning warned you all about Rowley. Rowley, born in Tobago. Imagine you born in a country and the people and them don't want you. And then you come to Trinidad and doing that sort of craziness. And this next short one, he's born in Antigua. He controlling Trinidad money. And then, I don't know, man.
Yeah, it is pathetic. It is unbelievable. It is,
unbelievable, man.
Yeah, Trinidad is supposed to be the leader in this hemisphere as far as the Caribbean is concerned. And that is the level of dotishness that we have to swallow by our leaders.
You remember this guy who was in Calypso, but Trinidad is the godfather of the Caribbean?
Yes.
Under Rowley right now, Trinidad, by the Rowley frame, the whole of the Caribbean.
Yeah, we are the underdog. And underdog here, meaning that we are under everything, under the line. Yeah.
The man is a parasite.
Total.
He's a parasite. He's just taking, he's just selling. Imagine you, the Prime Minister, you ain't consulting with nobody. You just doing things what you want. That's dictatorship.
Yeah.
And the young people don't listen to you, The young people don't listen to news. They don't know what the hell going on. Imagine you in a country and you telling me that you in this party for life. So you don't care what the other party have to offer.
Just imagine that. And go and...
crazy.
You always have a 6-6 scenario and go to the parliament and put in 3 more seats without consulting at least your opponent who has 6 as well.
Man, I just listen and watch it until.
Yes, go ahead, we continue. You see, what they did cater for is people like us who would find ways and means to bring the information to the people. And as the information settles in, people are going to take action, whether it be at the polls or otherwise. But this situation is not sustainable. They have reached the zenith of their shenanigans. This is clearly a Ponzi scheme government that has a criminal intent and orientation and must be eliminated from the political and social and psychological sphere of every single citizen, and the country would be the better off ultimately.
But tell me something. Saturday is independence in Trinidad and Tobago. I mean, you all could organize a march or some kind of thing.
Well, the ground report and the pushback movement and other elements, we are looking. We thought that might have been a short notice one, but I have no qualms if people express their individual disgust with this government connected to independence in more ways than one. Stay at home, for example, is one way, and not participate. Or if you go out there, demonstrate of course, the police will tell you that you had no permission to march and so on, so that they're willing to bring in these sedition laws. So the best thing to do is to stay home. That will send a message, I'm sure, as well. And in the short space that we have, that might be the most appropriate. So I will encourage. I personally, my whole family, we have decided not to go anywhere, not to participate or to give any kind of leeway to this government to show off the hardware or software of the military and the non-armed quasi-military, should I say, organizations in the country, and let them march by themselves. Is independence anyway? Yeah.
Let me tell you something. In Caribbean, you all call it a pavement. Up here, we call it a sidewalk. You have a couple of people walking on the sidewalk. The police can't do nothing for that because, I mean, you're walking on that's a public walk. Yeah, so, and you're voicing, you ain't had no placard or anything. You're just voicing your opinion. You're on the sidewalk. That's a public sidewalk.
Well, that's one way of doing it. So I'm saying that any form that will not attract that kind of lunacy, because the police officers who are willing to, of course, meet the population unfairly to protect that which is unprotectable electorally and in the face of the population. So we understand. So this discussion here, I'm sure, will give people ideas, and this is what this is all about.
Yeah, because I mean, the way this guy getting on, people don't put expose him, because he don't want nobody come down here to monitor the election or anything like that.
That's right. Yeah, he doesn't want that. He doesn't want. We know that. No, so there are specific mechanisms we are dealing with to treat with that, and you'll be hearing it unfolding on this program, Gong Report, and elsewhere in the shortest possible time. But we know that is a situation that we must address, and to make certain that we get independent, credible observers here in Trinidad, because he may call for independent observers, but they may not be credible. You see, like what he did, of course, by getting to Biden through, of course, a orchestrated doctorate from the Howard University. Notice that his friend organized it for him, and he was able to get to Biden, and bam, you see doors opening up for him. And of course, some of the concerns of the Americans in terms of money laundering and so on, because his daughter is up there, and I'm sure that the authorities there will want to know how she gets suddenly rich, where she get money from to buy the facility that she was, for example, once renting from. At least that's the information that I have. I have met with the FBI on this and other matters, which I will not disclose now, but certainly in the fullness of time, I certainly will.
You know, it have a calypso named Chogdas. Chogdas in a calypso one time some years ago. Big boys are charged and then discharged. Anyway, keep up the fight, man.
Thank you very much.
We are
Thank
listening.
You. Yeah, where you calling from? Sorry.
New York.
New York. All right. Thank you very much, New York. All right. Bye. All right. We'll be in touch. Bye. Yes, indeed, people. He sound like a fella right in Laventil Day, boy, when he talk about NJAC, especially when he started to talk about NJAC. People, of course, we have come to the end. It's just 10 more minutes. Let me just play one clip, but consistent with the topics that was raised, because right now Raul is saying that the criminals themselves are responsible, not the government. But listen to when he acknowledged that his government has failed. And very, very early, I'm talking about 2000 and about 17, 18, thereabout, when he said this.
The war against the criminal element, but to hold the government accountable, and the government must be held accountable. The country is awash in blood. There isn't a new. We are losing the war against the criminal element. We are losing the war against the criminal element. We are losing the war against the criminal element. We are losing the war against the criminal element. We are losing the war against the criminal element. But But you hold the government accountable, and the government must be held accountable. The country is awash in blood. There isn't a news item in this country where there isn't a good chance that a major part of the news is who killed who. The people of this country are quite correctly holding this government accountable to secure the country and to make you feel safe. You're losing the war against the criminal element. You're losing the war against the criminal element. But you hold the government accountable, and the government must be held accountable. The country is awash in blood. There isn't a news item in this country where there isn't a good chance that a major part of the news is who killed who.
Now, this Hitler, personified, reincarnated, this Hitler reincarnated, has told us before that the government must be held accountable, and that he confessed that they were losing the war. How come a plethora of excuses, all of which designed for him to stay where he is, when he confessed early, because he thought that, I'm sure at the time, talking the truth would have somehow generated sympathy. That's how this fella operates. So if you talk the truth, it generates sympathy. As he said, listen, when the news of the fake oil came about, and he inquired not from the police or his national security minister or the attorney general or even the DPP, he inquired from his friend, and he said it in uncertain terms, the owner of A Vigilant. He said, listen, what is happening here? He told us that, and he said, listen, if a man is your friend, you would be doing yourself a disservice if he's your friend and you ain't ask him a question. This ask for a prime minister must understand that he's prime minister. This is public money. This is taxpayers' money. This is our money. And he could make a statement like that. You understand the criminal nature of this man and believe he can get away with it, you know. It is called brinksmanship. He rape. He believes he got away with it. He got into the PNM with all that baggage. He believed he got away with it. He infiltrated, of course, and get the approval, acceptance of people like Manning, and he believed he get away with it. I don't need to tell you whites in government how much things he would have believed so far that he got away with. Now that we know who he is, he has to be a backside and a half to believe that he could constantly engage in nefarious acts against the population and his oath of office, misbehavior, total and absolute, blatant, conspicuous corruption, recusal as have never seen or never been seen in any government across the globe that claim to be a democratic, principled government operating in a democratic environment, transparency and accountability. He believed that. That is called brinksmanship, taking it to the edge. But as everything else, as I've said, and the old people ever say the longest rope has an end. What's sweet in goat mouth is sour in the bam bam. Yes, indeed, Rowley. You know it. And this Ponzi scheme that you would have developed, this Ponzi political scheme that you would have initiated, generated, manufactured, choreographed, has come to a screeching end. It has collapsed. And with it, no doubt, the PNM itself have a criminal enterprise. Because no one, after the dislodging of Rowley by the people through the ballot, not the bullet, can trust. And we have a duty and responsibility to ensure that no one, because the originating PNM, in spite of their own iniquities, never conducted themselves in the way this criminal-minded and criminal man has conducted himself, including Manning. No way they could have been leader of the PNM or prime minister in this country. A pleasant good night.
LENNOX,
yes, a pleasant good night.
Good night.
Yes, a pleasant good night. Pleasant good night to you.
Yes, good night to you, LENNOX.
Yes, indeed.
I'm a bit...
No problem, no problem. Go ahead.
Speaking with me?
Yes, I'm speaking with you. Yes, go ahead. Yes, Miss Santa Cruz, I'm speaking with you.
I hear noises in the background now.
Just let me make sure.
I'm very late, but I was so taken up with doing things I forget the time.
All right.
Anyway, LENNOX,
yes.
I saw the last half an hour, very interesting, and I love how they keep replaying all the things that you talk. You know, some people don't like it to go back to the past.
Of course.
I don't know for what reason they hate the past. If we don't relive something, if you don't remember the past, you're doomed to repeat it.
That's right.
You're doomed to repeat the nonsense.
That's right.
Right? And LENNOX, what you must also get is where he said that if you're not part of the solution, you're part of the problem. Yeah. And where he also said about criminals, when you have criminals in high office, you have criminals on the ground.
Good. And the only one he associated with is the parliament. He was referring to himself.
Yeah, you have, LENNOX, they have a lot of material for that man.
Yes.
A lot of material for that mocking pretender.
That's right.
He had all the answers. He was voted everything on Kamala's chest.
Yes.
Even with the school children fighting.
Yes.
But now he wants a war. Trust me, trust the PNM. We have the answer. But now it's don't blame me. You see how we wicked?
Yes,
but LENNOX, I sent you a nice video, man, where the lady chased shampoo out as she had.
On Saturday, we have some serious matters to deal with on Saturday. I just taken a little, should I say, eye shutter.
Yeah.
Eye shutter, but with, of course, with my mind running like 24/7, yes. Yes.
She bust some cuss on shampoo and she out there and good. And that is just the tip of the iceberg.
Of course.
What PNMites, what they are going to get from people. So let them continue. LENNOX, I won't stay long because I know you want to go.
Yes,
but take care and have a good night.
Same to you, my dear. Same to you. Let's hear Rowley again on the question of crime. Remember, of course, these days he is saying that the criminals are responsible for the crime. Obviously, they're responsible for the crime in the sense that they are committing it. But you are responsible for them committing it, Rowley. And you have a duty and responsibility to explain to the population why it is that when you blame, of course, parents, when you blame, of course, teachers, when you blame, of course, the ecclesiastic or the men and women of the cloth, when, of course, you created, of course, a scenario, no longer speaking of it, that was just an illusion that was, of course, ephemeral, temporary, when, of course, he talked about what crime being what? A public health menace. This man is despicable to the core. You said that it was what? A public health menace, and you now remain silent on it. That is no longer part of your vocabulary, Dr. Rowley. Man, get the hell out of office, man. Let's hear him confess once again.
Against the criminal element. You're losing the war 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 against the criminal element.
Let's say it again.
You're losing the war against the criminal element. You're losing the war against the criminal element. But you hold the government accountable. And the government must be held accountable. The country is awash in blood. There isn't a news item in this country where there isn't a good chance that a major part of the news is who killed who. The people of this country are quite correctly holding this government accountable.
Yes, indeed. Well, people, of course, we did not complete Rowley's letter to the Commonwealth Secretariat and the CARICOM Secretariat. And we reached, of course, clause 9 on the last occasion. Let us go back to clause 9, and then possibly on Friday we will do a little more in the interest of time, because it's already 1 minute past 10, and we said we finish in here at 9 o'clock every night. But so far we have not been able to keep our appointment with time. But it's for a good cause, so I don't mind. But remember, I also have, of course, the ground report in the morning, so let me invite you one time, Andy, Mikey, and myself, to, of course, treat with that matter. I see that there is 15 there, that clause 15, so let's go back to clause 9. There is 12 there. Let's see, go back to 7, right, 8, 9, so 2 down. Let's see. Wherever it reaches, I'm going to start just around. No, I ain't seen 9, boy. That's 11 there. All right, 9 there, okay. So let's go with 9, and then, of course, we will, of course, close off there. Hopefully we could finish. Let's hear Rowley. Let's hear Rowley when he wrote, of course, to the Commonwealth Secretariat and the CARICOM Secretariat, asking for, of all things, you wouldn't believe, international independent observers for the 2015 general elections, and of course included in that, for his reason as opposition leader, that they present, he said they present emails purporting, among other things, to kill a journalist. Listen to this nasty, evil man, who is now, of course, head of a Ponzi scheme called the PNM, a criminal enterprise that has now collapsed. And all Ponzi schemes end up, of course, collapsing.
Public consultation, and in the face of a commission set up to discuss amendments to the Constitution which made no such recommendation, this government proposed an amendment to the Constitution to provide for a runoff
this
election
government,
where no
meaning the Kamala Prasad government he is referring to there.
One of the major consequences of this proposal is the possibility that a duly elected government could be delayed for several weeks from taking office, while the said runoff election is held. This amendment was highly controversial, and caused significant public outcry, which in turn led to one of the members of the said commission criticizing the proposed amendment, and declaring that it was not the subject of any focused discussions, and did not even form part of the commission's proposals. 10. In November 2011, this government laid the Administration of Justice, Preliminary Inquiry, bill which contained the infamous Section 34, which along with decisions made thereafter by the then Attorney General of Trinidad and Tobago with respect to litigation being conducted before the local courts, all but guaranteed the freedom of two well-known financiers of the United National Congress who were before the court for several offenses, including that of money laundering. 11. Former Attorney General Anand Ram Lagan, while holding the office of Attorney General, filed 5 actions in defamation before the High Court against the Leader of the Opposition for words spoken in that capacity on matters of great public interest. 12. One of the actions in defamation referred to in the previous paragraph complained about statements made by the Leader of the Opposition with respect to the Section 34 debacle referred to in paragraph X above. For the purposes of his defense to the claim, the Leader of the Opposition secured a witness statement from the then head of the Central Authority, Mr. David West, who was intimately involved in the prosecutions of the two well-known financiers both locally and abroad. The witness statement spoke to the change in approach to these prosecutions, once this government assumed office. In January 2015, Mr. West, who was now the head of the Police Complaints Authority, made a report to the AG. Commissioner of Police that he had been approached by the former Attorney General to withdraw his witness statement filed in the defamation action on behalf of the Leader of the Opposition. This act, on the part of the former Attorney General, is commonly referred to as witness tampering, and it is a criminal offense. 13. A material witness to the allegation of
all of these things he put in a letter.
The preceding paragraph was the then Minister of National Security
to get independent observers.
And went on to assert that an attempt was thereafter made by senior government ministers and close associates of the government to coerce him to retract the said corroboration. On February 2, 2015, as a consequence of the matters set out above, the former Attorney General resigned his office, and the Prime Minister dismissed the Minister of National Security from her cabinet. The former Minister of National Security informed the public that he was dismissed because he had refused to succumb to attempts to change his statement which corroborated the claim of Mr. West. The Prime Minister also thereafter proceeded to launch a scathing public attack on Mr. West at a political meeting, calling for him to step down as the head of the Police Complaints Authority and later demanded of the President of the Republic that he fire Mr. West from the Police Complaints Authority. 14. On May 23, 2013, the Prime Minister referred to the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service for investigation, certain matters raised by the Leader of the Opposition in Parliament on May 20, 2013, which in the view of the opposition leader, if proven, demonstrated an attack on, and a conspiracy to undermine, key institutions of state by senior members of this government, including the Prime Minister. While making the said referral, and without awaiting the outcome of the investigation, the Prime Minister moved a motion that the Leader of the Opposition deliberately and willfully misled the House and had committed a contempt, and referred him to the Privileges Committee. That matter was not completed before the tenure of the House came to an end, and it accordingly lapsed. 15. On May 1, 2015, just over one month before Parliament is to be dissolved, and a general election called, this government declared that the Prime Minister and other senior members of government had been cleared of all the matters referred to in the contribution of the Leader of the Opposition on May 20, 2013, purportedly supported by privately obtained opinions. This government then moved a motion of suspension with respect to the Leader of the Opposition, and utilized its majority in Parliament to suspend him for the very same matters referred to in the preceding paragraph, this time without referring him to the Privileges Committee, where he would have been provided with an opportunity to be heard. 16. On May 13, 2015, the Deputy Director of Public Prosecutions had cause to issue a release indicating that the investigation into the disclosures by the opposition leader on May 20, 2013 had not in fact been completed and that no one including the Prime Minister had been cleared. The Deputy Director of Public Prosecutions stated as follows. Any parallel investigation by interested parties and the public airing of the supposed results are palpably self-serving and bring to mind the need for the legal maxim, no man should be a judge in his own cause. This is a bedrock principle of natural justice, the rule of law and due process. It exists to ensure impartiality by the disqualification of potentially biased or interested parties in the investigations. Further, notwithstanding the fact that the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service has the institutional strength and history to withstand pressure from whatever source, the publication of this information derived from private sources has the potential to interfere with the investigations being conducted by independent and impartial bodies, such as the Integrity Commission and the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service. Moreover, it has the potential to interfere with the public perception of the soundness of these investigations. 17. As a consequence of the intervention of the Deputy Director of Public Prosecutions as set out above, both the Prime Minister and the Attorney General have severely criticized the said office holder, and the Prime Minister has called on her to recuse herself from the investigation. 18. On the heels of the release from the Director of Public Prosecutions, the Integrity Commission of Trinidad and Tobago communicated with the Attorney-at-Law for the Prime Minister by letter dated May 19, 2015, and indicated that its investigation into the matters raised by the Leader of the Opposition had been terminated, on the basis that there were insufficient grounds for continuing the investigation. Within days of the issuance of this letter, 2 members of the Integrity Commission resigned, with the Deputy Chairman Justice Sebastian Ventura stating that the Integrity Commission did not in fact sufficiently investigate the matters raised by the Leader of the Opposition, and that the letter dated May 19, 2015 was incorrect. In addition, it has since been learned that the Chairman of the Integrity Commission shared chambers with the Attorney-at-Law for the Prime Minister immediately before his appointment, as well as the fact that the father of the Chairman's grandson is contesting the same seat as the Leader of the Opposition in the upcoming general elections. 19. On April 30, 2015, Moody's Investors Service downgraded Trinidad and Tobago's government bond rating and issuer rating from Baa1 to Baa2 and changed the outlook from stable to negative. This government has chosen to ignore this downgrade, criticize the institution which issued the downgrade, and caution the public that the prudent spending being advocated for by the opposition will lead to a cut in social programs, subsidies, and an increase in taxes. 20. With months to go before a general election, this government has used public resources to engage in blatant electioneering. This government has embarked upon a widespread media blitz, under the banner Your Government Working for You, which advertises the purported accomplishments of this government, which in fact amounts to no more than the basic responsibilities of a government to its citizens. Hundreds of millions of dollars of state funds have been utilized to fund this scheme. 21. In a year when this government is seeking re-election, it is proceeding to engage in acts carefully designed to either induce voters and or relocate support by politically hyping. A. The distribution of 100 government houses a week to citizens. B. The increase in the income ceiling criteria for government housing from $10,000 to $30,000. C. That citizens who have been renting government housing for more than 30 years will be allowed to purchase same for $100, and D. That some 30,000 persons who have been squatting on government lands will be regularized. Given all that has been set out above, which it should be noted is limited to a period of just 5 years, this government is evidently prepared to take liberties with citizens' rights and institutions, and has clearly demonstrated its reluctance to conduct public affairs and manage public resources in a proper and responsible manner. There is incontrovertible evidence that this government is not prepared to be party to a well-functioning democracy, and is instead prepared to engage in any form of misbehavior in order to further its own interests. As a consequence, the PNM is of the firm view that the Elections and Boundaries Commission would no doubt benefit from an added layer of protection which would be supplied through the activities of a CARICOM electoral observer mission. In the premises, please treat this letter as a formal request to CARICOM to provide an electoral observer mission to observe the general election in Trinidad and Tobago constitutionally due no later than September 17, 2000, eularized. Given all that has been set out above, which it should be noted is limited to a period of just 5 years, this government is evidently prepared to take liberties with citizens' rights and institutions, and has clearly demonstrated its reluctance to conduct public affairs and manage public resources in a proper and responsible manner. There is incontrovertible evidence that this government is not prepared to be party to a well-functioning democracy, and is instead prepared to engage in any form of misbehavior in order to further its own interests. As a consequence, the PNM is of the firm view that the Elections and Boundaries Commission would no doubt benefit from an added layer of protection which would be supplied through the activities of a CARICOM electoral observer mission. In the premises, please treat this letter as a formal request to CARICOM to provide an electoral observer mission to observe the general election in Trinidad and Tobago constitutionally due no later than September 17, 2015.
So, people, there you have it. And broadly speaking, he wrote in that letter about Kamala and, of course, then Prime Minister and the UNC, that which is in him and has practiced over the last 9 years. It's amazing. He did all of these things. So he had in mind to do these things, but when someone else, not having done it, but manufacturing stories that it was in fact done, to institutions such as the Commonwealth Secretariat and the CARICOM Secretariat, in his argument to have independent observers. And we have seen another thing. Whilst he was clamoring for independent observers over the last 9 years, and an additional election that the PNM would have been in charge, at least 2 of these elections Rowley flatly denied, as he had the responsibility so to do, to bring international observers for those elections. I'm talking about the one last year, where of course the Privy Council forced him, and therefore say flatly that I'm not doing that. And in 2020, not even COVID is an excuse, having regard to the letter that we have in our possessions, that is Commonwealth Secretariat said they have the readiness, they have the tickets. All they want from the government is 1 day quarantine, examination. They have done it in other countries, and then give us the leeway and or the access to all of the polling stations and the physical apparatus, so that they could roam as they please, with of course escort from a designated ministry. And in this case, the ministry that was designated to do that job, to move them around, would have been the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of and CARICOM Matters. Yeah, Dennis Moses was the man at the time. We have the correspondence. We're going to extrapolate a little more later down the road. But we have a lot people that you may have missed that needs to come and impact on your decision, and therefore our decision to get rid of, to jettison, to exterminate politically and electorally, of course, the PNM.
We look forward to your kind consideration. Yours faithfully, Dr. Keith Rowley, MP, Leader of the Opposition.
So I want you to just take a note of what was I identified, but we're going to look at all of that. I'm sure that it is food for thought. I know that some of you will view it again so that you can bring your thoughts and your own assessment to this most despicable letter having regard to Dr. Rowley's recent position on the whole question of our democracy and the collapse of this Ponzi scheme that he has erected to fool even international organizations such as the Secretariat and regional, such as talking about the Commonwealth Secretariat and of course regionally, I talk about the CARICOM Secretariat. He went through all of that. And today, you believe that you could just say no observers and we must take it lightly? Haul your tail, you ugly son of a bitch.
Note. Dr. Rowley as opposition leader before the 2015 general elections was insistent upon elections observers and actually wrote to CARICOM. The question is, why was he not so interested in these very observers for the 2020 general elections that he was prime minister? This evil, deceptive, powermonger dictator also before the 2015 elections positioned himself against former PM Patrick Manning as a corruption buster. Today as prime minister, Rowley is a corruption promoter. This is paragraph 14 of opposition leader Rowley back in 2015. Quote, on May 23, 2013, the Prime Minister referred to the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service for investigation, certain matters raised by the leader of the opposition in Parliament on May 20, 2013.
We talk about the email here.
Which in the view of the opposition leader, if proven, demonstrated an attack on, and a conspiracy to undermine, key institutions of state by senior members of this government, including the Prime Minister. While making the said referral, and without awaiting the outcome of the investigation, the Prime Minister moved a motion that the leader of the opposition deliberately and willfully misled the House and had committed a contempt, and referred him to the Privileges Committee. That matter was not completed before the tenure of the House.
So we know Kamala Persad-Bissessar now was justified, that she was vindicated in referring this lying, thieving, ugly, powermongerer, Luciferian, to the not to the Privilege Committee, but to get the House to vote, to expel his tail, justified, well done Kamala, then come to the Parliament and accuse a Prime Minister of conspiracy to murder a journalist. And a journalist, you know, that is how dangerous the existential threat to Trinidad and Tobago is. Rowley and that gang of pirates, of parasites, a Ponzi scheme put together, bunch of criminals that has come crashing down.
Came to an end, and it accordingly lapsed. Unquote. And Rowley now as Prime Minister is hypocritically condemning and branding persons as unpatriotic and treasonous. A man without scruples or morals and should not be Prime Minister or head of the PNM this criminal enterprise.
Yes indeed, people. So that was that part that I said take note would have been my interjection to make certain that you are laser focused, but I know that you would have been the beneficiary of other parts of this, what I consider to be treasonous letter, and that Rowley in government and as Prime Minister should be charged for treason now, for knowing all of this and knowing that observers are crucial for elections, and then trying, of course, to water it down and say that and being dismissive. I trust that you sycophants and you hardliners and you have stick break in your ears, and that you are defending or attempting to defend the indefensible, that you take note. You take note, because like rain that falls on a community, it falls on every man's house up. You're not going to escape the wrath of Rowley if you allow him any laxity, any leeway to even go close to the diplomatic center, far less to the Whitehall. I say no more. Have a wonderful rest of the night. God bless. See you, of course, tomorrow morning on the ground report, when we would have, of course, ventilate not only these and extrapolate not only these and expand on not only these, but to make certain you understand clearly your role and responsibility, and that Rowley is a rapscallion of unlimited and extreme evil. Extreme evil, people. Yes, indeed. That's a good night. Have a wonderful rest of the night. See you tomorrow morning on the Ground Report. And, of course, don't forget tomorrow night I will be enjoying myself on Prince Street. Bye-bye.
Could I be like you? Yes. Should I fool the people too? Yes. You see all these years I singing calypso, I singing the truth. Still can't win the crown. They just teach me in tongue. Can't buy my own house, no. Look at renting still. But just like you is a palace I want to build. Maybe I have to be a politician in TNT. Cause calypso money. Can't build no palace for me. Just like yours, with about 300 doors. Calypso can't give me that. I'm telling you flat. One fish for 20,000. I want about 10 dozen. Diplomatic center too. I dream to keep fit like you. But it could
finance big shot friends and family. So the whole of the country wants you know to stop lying. Cause the next election is a new party we voting. Like you forget your people once you in power and you're moving evil, you had the whole place sour. And now that we discover is 2% that they offer. This is one little thing that I want all you to remember. We fed up all your lives. You could do much better.
Daddy, could you tell me what's the qualification that I must have to be a politician? When I grow up, you must swear on Bible and take false oath. You must use big words to get votes. You must lie and watch me straight in the eye. Oh, son, that's the qualification of a politician.
Well, this is Massive Go Sign. And you know I support the UNC. When I write a big checklist song and I send it to a PNM print tree. And you know the blasting people misprint my song. Hear what them put, eh? Here, listen to what them write. I just write a real big chutney. I take the copy to the print tree. But they couldn't make out my handwriting. They make a friggin' mess with the printing. Because I say Ramesh is a good leader. The print Ramesh is a deceiver. I say Ralphie is a superman. The print Ralphie is a soccer man. This is Massive Go Sign. Wicked and wild. Why do? What they do? Why do? What they do? Rowley, you fuck up when they go. You fuck it up. 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 walk it up, you walk it up, you walk it up, you walk it up, you walk it up. Rowley Muma planting gun, long time now.
We can't even protest.
So you see what happened down by the savannah? I could have swear some of these people commit murder. All of them police should get charged with brutality for the way how they was beating up everybody. People were only standing up for their human rights. I can't even understand why we have to fight. But like they just always sit down like some too pretty and watch them kill out with friends and with families. I wanna ball, sing it out loud. Santi Manite.
Jano, Jano, Pitchman begging the master, give me a walk with Peter. If I some sinners coming, with them I go be dealing. Because the things that they do me, I want to fix them personally. Peter wait, Peter look Cecil Rhodes by the gate. Money. Peter look the Englishman, we send Cecil Rhodes to